Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Hey, sorry for getting this one out a little bit later, but hope you guys are well. Hope you had a good weekend. What is going on in this crazy world? By the way, it's almost Halloween. Oh my God. Let's talk about Halloween for a second. I think I talked about this last year. Or gosh, maybe it was even prior to that. But Halloween is hilarious, man. It seriously, I do love it because I think it gives people a chance to just maybe disconnect from the insanity of this world and just enjoy yourselves. But I will tell you the funny thing about certain people, and I think this is more come out with the emergence of social media, and that is that, and I mean it applies, I'd say more to women than men, but it definitely applies to men because I've got some buddies that just are hilarious. But man, people like use it as an opportunity to basically like thirst trap people. Are you familiar with the phrase thirst trap? And for women, I mean, man, some of these girls, like the outfits, again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't like them. I do. But they're insane. Like they're just so risque. It's crazy. It's like a license to dress like a complete, I'm not going to say the word, but I don't know. You know what's funny? I don't know why I think about this now that I'm a little older, and I don't know, it just comes off like strange. Like I've got some gal friends, in their 40s and 50s, and again, I love it. I mean, they're putting in the work. They're probably taking hot works or Pilates or something, yoga. They're putting in the work, but they are showing off that body. And again, I mean, I think yoga clothes in general, like the tight pants and all that, whoever invented those, I mean, thank you. But those things do it enough on a daily basis because that's kind of become many women's uniform, especially due to COVID. But the crazier part is, for Halloween, and it's not just October 31st, it's like all last weekend. I'm sure it'll be all this weekend. It's just a license to dress ridiculously, provocatively, and post that on your social media. Hey, more power to you. Do what makes you happy. Same thing for the guys. I've got some buddies, especially a couple guys in Orange County that I'm friends with. And I'm just like, dude, this is just so goofy. Like it's goofy. But again, to each their own, do what makes you happy. Okay, what did I want to talk about today? So Tucker Carlson had Nick Fuentes on his podcast yesterday, and I did listen to it, and it was good. It was definitely interesting. Let me see. I might play some clips from it, but I think the thing I wanted to talk about first is, I believe I had said this, but remember maybe, gosh, coming up on 2 months ago, maybe at this point, but remember all of a sudden Nick Fuentes went on Candace Owens' podcast. It was very, very provocative, very controversial, very combative, I should say. And then Candace Owens went on Tucker Carlson's podcast, and the two of them attacked Nick. And it's really been pretty vitriol and visceral. I love those two words. Vitriol and visceral between Tucker Carlson plus Candace Owens versus Nick Fuentes. Well, all of a sudden, Nick Fuentes goes on Tucker Carlson yesterday. And I will say this, I thought it was weird they didn't address that elephant in the room. Like, hey, why did you call me a little gay kid in his basement in Chicago? I mean, that's what Tucker called Nick. And then Nick went scorched earth. I have it on an episode. I can't remember which one. But Nick, use the deep shallow dive search. You can find it. But Nick went scorched earth on Tucker after that. You know, I thought it was strange. They did not even address that. Like in my mind, I'm like, how do you not talk about that and just say, hey, you know, sorry about saying that or whatever. I guess it makes me think that, I mean, who knows? Maybe some of that was scripted at the time. You know, remember, people get paid in terms of social media based on views on YouTube, based on views on Spotify. I mean, that's where the bulk of people are getting paid. So I would not put it past anybody, you know, including the three of them, to really try to get the views and set something else up. I think it's also about setting something else up. Now, I have not figured out what it is that Tucker, Candace, and Nick together would be setting up, although their common thread is they are all Catholics. So they all recognize themselves as Catholics. So that's something I'm going to dive into. But anyway, I thought that was a little strange that they did not at any point address that. The course of the interview, I can't say they were buddy-buddy, and then I can't say they were adversarial. I mean, there definitely seemed to be a little, just not the loving vibes like when Candace and was on Tucker, but obviously, I mean, those guys are friends. So definitely not the loving vibes, but again, not the hating vibes either. So, you know, it was actually it was an informative episode. They went pretty high level on the geopolitics and especially on the relationship with Israel and, you know, both of their views and all that. So they didn't get in the weeds much. I don't think they talked about Charlie Kirk. You know, I still have a little bit of it to listen to. But anyway, that's obviously taking up a lot of airtime on social media, Nick Fuentes being on Tucker Carlson. So I did want to make you aware of that. It is on Tucker Carlson's podcast, which obviously you can find everywhere. All right, let me play you some clips. I want to start off by playing this clip. It's talking about the moon landing, our good friend, the moon landing. But there's an Asian professor that is like starting to gain a lot of traction. I forget what his name is. I think it's Professor Jiang. I'll actually find it in another clip, but give this a listen. And I think this is worth listening to because he's talking about the Van Allen radiation belts, which again, in my opinion, are one of the main signs or things that negate the possibility of a moon landing. And I'm telling you, if you go and look at the images and videos of when supposedly the lunar module or whatever that thing was called, forget landing on the moon. The goofier stuff is when they're showing the video of it leaving the moon. Because it's like, how did you even film that? How did you even film leaving the moon? Like, how is there a camera seemingly 50 feet in front of this thing launching off of the moon? But give this a listen.
I'm not saying the moon landing was faked, but there's an argument that it's impossible for humans to leave something called the Van Allen belt. Okay, the Van Allen belt is this electromagnetic field that protects us from cosmic radiation. So that the belts themselves have heavy radiation. So if you go into it, you die. But also if you leave the Van Allen belts, there's nothing to protect you from cosmic radiation, so you could die as well. So some scientists actually believe that it's impossible to leave Earth. Okay, we'll just die. I don't know how they were able to do this. And as you may know, right now, a lot of countries, America, China, are trying to get back to the moon. They're having a really hard time. Okay? They're having a hard time because NASA lost all the technology, lost all the footage, lost all the data. Oops. Oh well. Okay.
If you didn't know that, that is true. Supposedly, NASA lost all the technology, all the information, and like the manual on how to get back to the moon. They did not put that manual, I guess, in their Google Drive or something, and they lost it. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Okay, here, let's listen to the rest.
So how was NASA able to keep the secret? Well, guess what? A lot of their most important people were Freemasons. Okay, this is Buzz Aldrin, one of the 3 astronauts. He was a Freemason. Okay. John Glenn, the first American to orbit the Earth was a Freemason, 33-degree Mason, okay?
All right, I'm not going to lie. I completely forgot he ended it with talking about the Freemasons and then the 33 number and all that. All right, I have got to find somebody to really dive into this Freemason stuff. I think it's worth understanding. Again, I don't know much about that. I don't know much about all of those secret societies and all that. I know the top line, information about Freemasons, Illuminati, Bilderberg Group, what else? Skull and Bones, like all these groups. I know that they exist and I do believe that they exist, but I don't really know enough to explain it. So I will try to find somebody. Anyway, forget that, even forgetting that last part. Well, I guess the last part comes into play because you think, okay, who would be willing to lie to the world like that? And if he's saying Buzz Aldrin or John Glenn, I forgot if he said Neil Armstrong, if these guys are part of some group, and let's say you put credence in that group existing and put credence in that group, having significant power, then obviously they can get people to do what they want, especially the folks that are part of that team and part of that organization. All right, next, I've got to play this clip from Ted Cruz because it's actually gotten pretty viral on the internet. And this is what Jeb Baugh, by the way, a lot of nice comments about the interview with Jeb Baugh. I appreciate that. I let Jeb know. I got a really nice note from Jeb's mom as well, saying how much she appreciated me having her son on the podcast and that he's become the talk of the family. And I said, no problem. I said, hey, you raised a great kid. And it was actually, if you didn't get a chance to listen to that episode, it's really good. I mean, Jeb is a 19-year-old kid, freshman at University of North Dakota. Obviously, he kind of got catapulted a little bit into the social media spotlight by really putting Glenn Beck on fire. He lit Glenn Beck on fire with asking him, those questions and kind of putting him on the spot and not really getting a great answer. But I will tell you, the interview with Jeb, he's a knowledgeable kid. And obviously, I think this generation, I'm telling you, Gen Z, to an extent, not all of them, but many folks in Gen Z are very well versed on geopolitics. It's pretty incredible. And they're basically going back and learning this stuff on their own. Like, for example, with Jeb, I mean, yeah, he was up to speed on the stuff going on in Gaza because he's watched that on his phone. But he also got into talking about, the USS Liberty, which took place in 1967. He talked about the situation between Russia and Ukraine and brought up Bill Clinton and things that were just very impressive for a 19-year-old to have a grasp on. So anyway, that was a really good episode. I forget what I was linking that to. Oh, I was linking that to Ted Cruz. What Jeb was talking about is this clip from Ted Cruz.
Those who hate Israel hate America. Every year, the United States provides roughly $3 billion in military assistance to Israel. The benefit we get from that, the Mossad, the intelligence resources. You look at Iran, where they knew where every anti-aircraft weapon was, every military leader, every IRGC leader. That benefit, if America tried to replicate that intelligence network, it would cost us tens of billions of dollars. And the United States of America should say to that little nation, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh my God, these guys are insane. It's just, again, nothing against the people. It's just the politics of it are pretty wild. The one thing I'll say to that clip is what he talked about in terms of, being able to locate every IRGC member in Iran and all that. This is where I think you have to rise above and sort of be critical about everything. Well, then why didn't they take out, the supreme leader of Iran? If you can take out everybody, and if that's the head of the snake, why didn't they take that guy out when they could? Again, I think, it's pretty crazy, but who knows, man? I just don't think that everything is what it seems. And again, I'll leave you with thinking, remember, without an enemy, I've said this a million times, I'm going to say it again. without an enemy, without a big bad wolf, without a boogeyman, the military industrial complex and the fear factor does not exist anymore. You need someone to be scared of in order to pump money into military contractors, in order to create narratives, in order to, basically get the public, the general public, having fear about something. And without a big bad wolf, without a boogeyman, without the enemy, you don't have that. And so, again, peace is not good business, just like good health is not good business. By the way, I am on my way later today to get a blood test. So I decided to get another blood test. I meant to do it at the 6-month mark. I've talked to you guys a lot about getting blood tests at the beginning of the year. I meant to do this back in July, but anyway, regardless, I am getting a blood test because I have consistently held my weight at 144, which has been my target weight. I think I've talked to you guys about this a lot. Man, talk about a subject change, right? Anyway, but I want to see what my markers are with the weight that I want to be, which is 144 versus the last time back, I believe in February when I got that blood test. And God, I might have weighed 154. I might be down 10 pounds from that. So anyway, it'll be interesting because I do have a theory that weight is very much a predictor of your lab tests. And namely, I'm thinking about cholesterol, triglycerides, your HDL, which they call your good cholesterol, your LDL, which they call your bad cholesterol, and then also your blood glucose levels. So I shall report that back. All right, let me see what's next. Oh, you know what? I do want to talk about the situation and what's going on in Venezuela right now. And I'm going to play this clip from Rand Paul on Piers Morgan. I'm actually going to dive deep on this and do a whole episode. And I will tell you, it's not complicated. Venezuela is all about oil. It's all about oil. And Venezuela, as I think I've talked about at various points, they are either the world's richest or definitely in the top 5 for sure, maybe in the top 3 as far as having oil reserves. Like Venezuela has a ton of oil. They should absolutely be like Saudi Arabia right now. Honestly, Venezuela should be a thriving country and economy due to how much oil they have, but they're not. And so, the United States and anybody on the West blames socialism and blames the government of Venezuela for having a socialist view on things, and that's Nicolas Maduro, who's the current, prime minister or president. And then by the same token, the Venezuelans obviously do not blame that, but then you think, like, why is their economy not thriving? Like, why are they not just, such an incredibly affluent country because of how much oil they have? So I need to really peel that back. But in the meantime, give this a listen because, the Trump administration is like, they're just killing random, supposedly, drug dealers in boats in the ocean in Venezuela. But again, it's so haphazard, and it's kind of like sometimes on social media, somebody will say something in the comments, somebody will be like, source, trust me, bro. So this is like what the Trump administration is doing. Their sources are, trust me, bro.
Number one, there is no fentanyl made in Venezuela. Not just a little bit, there's none being made in Venezuela. These are outboard boats that, in order for them to get to Miami, would have to stop and refuel 20 times. They're in all likely going to Trinidad and Tobago, which is an island right off of the coast of Venezuela. So there's a lot of reasons to be worried about this. But number one is the broader principle of when can you kill people indiscriminately? When you're at war. That's why when we declare war, it's supposed to be done by Congress. It's supposed to be thoughtful. It's supposed to be debated. And we're not supposed to do it willy-nilly. And then when you have war, you just kill people in the war zone. And even then there are rules of engagement. But interdicting drugs has always been a criminal activity and a criminal anti-crime sort of activity where we don't just summarily execute people. We actually present evidence and convict them.
All right, that was Rand Paul again. I mean, incredibly well said, and that's what's happening. It's like the Trump administration is indiscriminately like bombing 6 dudes on a boat in the middle of the ocean. Like it's just goofy. There's so much goofy stuff going on. Okay, I think goofy is the word for today's episode. All right, you got to listen to my man, Professor Jeffrey Sachs on Tucker Carlson. I mean, he just goes scorched earth on Benjamin Netanyahu, but it's worth a listen because, again, I think that the points he brings up are really the points more and more people are talking about, and it's going to be interesting where, what direction this takes next.
You ask me, am I really sure why Netanyahu, who is an absolutely disgusting warmonger, who has dragged us into terrible wars, who is committing massive war crimes, why he gets 57 standing ovations in the U.S. Congress? Is it the AIPAC lobby, the Israel lobby? Is it blackmail by Israel? Because there's no doubt a lot of credible claims of Epstein and more. Is it direct bribes? Is it fear of American politicians? Is it the mainstream media, which for a lot of reasons owned by a lot of billionaires that tend to be rather ardent Zionists? Is it the large Christian Zionist vote base, which is also a real thing? To tell you the truth, none of it really adds up.
I agree.
In full, because this is not in America's interest.
All right, the last part of that was the best part because, again, none of it really does add up and it's not in America's interest. So this is where you have to think like, okay, God, whose interest is it in? And all right, wow, this is pretty wild. I'm going to bring this all the way back to the beginning. I mean, chances are this can be linked to, if you really do believe in this concept of these secret societies and the Freemasons and, that world, that elite world of control players, it's in their interest. Everything that is taking place is in their interest. And again, just to be clear, what that means is people like Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham and, all these people, even Tucker Carlson's of the world and Jeffrey Sachs and everybody, these are all pawns in this game. They're all either messengers or debaters against the messengers or whatever. The real power is kind of secret. I guess that's why they call it secret societies. All right. Anyway, sorry for getting this one out late. 23 minutes. I've got another great interview today with this guy, Ian Wendt. Chances are you might know him on Instagram if you're a big Instagram person. He always starts off a lot of his clips with, bet you didn't see this. Bet you didn't see this. He's like a ginger. I think he's like a red-haired dude. I actually like him a lot. We've kind of gotten to know each other a little bit. So I am interviewing him later today, and I will try to bring that to you tomorrow. All right, everybody, call a spade, call your parents, and talk to you soon.
That was a great way to end it.
This episode was brought to you by Zippix nicotine toothpicks. Zip more, smoke less. Totally satisfying, discreet, and delicious. Zippix nicotine-infused toothpicks are available in 6 great flavors, each containing at least 2 milligrams of nicotine to curb those cravings. Zippix is FDA registered and proudly made in the USA. Use discount code DSD for 10% off your order at zippixtoothpicks.com. Zip more, smoke less, save 10%.